I didn't check how far this cable would reach before I started recording this. There's like a range. I can't really go past here. So let's it'll be fine. So it's Saturday night, and my plans fell through. So I thought we would talk about the new this camera. I thought we'd talk about the new Spider-Man game, because why not? And see how it goes. I've been doing a bunch of new weird shit on this channel, trying to find videos that I like doing. Something new entirely. Hope you guys enjoy it. If not, I mean, the new Spider-Boy's out. That's the goddamn truth about it. It's out on the PlayStation 4. Everyone's favorite, well, everyone owns one apparently. It's something I learned this week with all the coverage. Is apparently it's like the top-selling console with the Xbox One, which I bet Microsoft are loving. It's not in frame, but that's fine. I'm going to be in the corner. And it's a free-roam superhero game where you go around a city, solving crimes, and hanging out with villains and characters that are like involved with Peter's life and involved with the protagonist's personal life. And about halfway through the game, a militia force takes over the city, led by a morally questionable ruler we've never met before. And traversal is a big part of the appeal, and mechanically the combat plays like a grown-up version of Japanese brawlers. That's right, we're going to talk about Batman Arkham City.
If you wanted to be cured so badly, you only had to ask.
I really enjoy the new Spider-Man game. I don't think that's like that's not like something that I think is like an especially clever, interesting opinion. It's pretty fun. It manages to take basically zero risks, save like a fresh treatment of an old character that I won't spoil. And like everyone, I went into this game, you know, mask first, expecting to love the traversal and the web swinging, and like it's fine. I don't know. Everyone's it makes me feel like Spider-Man, but for me, it just didn't do it. You know? Like, on top of that, it takes, like, an hour to get into, like, the actual meat of, like, understanding how the web swinging works. Like, once you get the hang of it, there is, like, a real vibe to it, you know? Because once you find the balance of using the right trigger and then jamming the X button at the right time to do, like, sick flips and stuff, it is really fun. And especially the ability to do those cool, you know, somersaults and turns and little rolls and stuff while you're in the air gives you something to do with your fingers when normally in, like, a game when you're traversing, you'd just be sort of trying to get somewhere. It adds like a level of style and practice that is involved in actually being like a stylish web swinger. And it sounds dumb, but like there is actually skill involved in making your swinging look cool, which seems like something that shouldn't be in a video game, but it really works really well in Spider-Man. But for me, like, it wasn't the Tony Hawkness of, like, the flipping and the cool web spinning that I was interested in, but, like, the combat grabbed me really quickly. I was expecting to dislike it because, like, it's not Arkham. And, like, that's fine. It doesn't need to be Arkham, but I was expecting to, like, dislike it just on the principle that it wasn't Batman. And I really enjoyed it. You know, it has some nuance to it, and in the same way that Arkham's satisfying, if you nail a combat encounter, you feel like Spider-Man. As an aside, it's kind of weird there aren't any female bad guys. I was just realizing this as I'm reading through this document. I just thought that was weird. Like, the Sable agent that's running them is female, but, like, aside from Black Cat, who's, like, sexualized, there's kind of not any other female bad guys. Like, all the bad guys are male. So that's, like, a Spider-Man canon issue. It's not, like, their fault. Just weird, given how many females there are in Batman's games. And they're all sexualized, sure, but, like, at least they have some representation. So I enjoyed my time with Marvel's first actually good game. And, you know, I'm probably going to 100% the damn thing. I'm pretty close. I really like playing it. But there's, you know, some of the suits are cool that you unlock. A lot of them are quite anachronistic. And it makes me wonder if, like, Peter Plopper in this world could actually build them. But, yeah, it's a video game. I get it. You know, it's fun. And that there's a superpower where, like, everyone dies in one punch and you die in one punch, you get 100%. It's weird they save that till the end. It should be a difficulty mode. I'm just saying it makes the game so much more fun. But that's fine. Let's forgive them for that. But, like, it's a Batman game. It just makes me think of Batman, and I can't help that. Like, the Arkham franchise is so important, and that's not a bad thing. Like, the game was clearly inspired by the homies over at Rocksteady. Like, they were making Arkham City, and, you know, these guys at Rocksteady were just full of the joy of human life. If you've never seen interviews about Arkham City's development, the game developers and the lead designers are the happiest dudes in the entire fucking planet.
It is set 18 months after the events of Arkham Asylum. All the inmates from Arkham Asylum have been shipped over to Hugo Strange's Arkham City. There we're going to have characters like we've got Joker, Two-Face, Penguin, we've got Mr. Freeze, and all of them are jostling for position. They're jostling for power within Arkham City. This is where we find Batman. He obviously doesn't want this stuff to...
Just to think about the Arkham Knight days where they were really depressed and really sad, and basically no one had anything nice to say about the game because they were kind of forced into it and they really didn't want to do it. And the whole project feels like it was kind of ham-fisted at the last second and the game doesn't really work at all. And they kind of seem to know that in press interviews, but they can't say anything bad about it because Warner Brothers, I assume, own their firstborn children. They own their firstborn children. So that's a bit depressing, but yeah, they really liked they liked Arkham City, and the game is so good.
There's a lovely evolution of the product. You know, if you're making a film, then you're much more constrained about what you caught on the celluloid when you filmed it. But for games, we can come in one day and be quite dynamic in what we do.
It's undeniable that Spidey, Homie, and Batboy kind of play the same in a lot of ways. I imagine a scenario where, you know, Spider-Man's like, "Hey, Batman." Oh, hang on, sorry, is a Spider-Man sound? "Hey, Batman, nice suit." He's from Texas. Okay. And then Batman's be like, "My parents are dead." "Oh, really? Same, bro. I'm a genius who builds gadgets and really cool armor." "Oh, wow. Gee willikers, Batman. What a coincidence. I'm also really smart and a scientist, and I build cool gadgets and suits of armor." "And I'm rich, and that's my superpower." "Oh, shit. I ain't rich. I struggle paying the rent even though I got 25 costumes I could sell on eBay and make a mint." "I'm Batman." That bit went on a bit too long, if you ask me. Whereas the Arkham franchise really took Batman and asked what he would have to become to save Gotham, especially in Arkham City. I think that game is a real good examination of what Batman needed to become to save the city, but also save himself. Because in that game, it's very personal for him. You know, he is poisoned. He's going through like a process of dying throughout the whole game, and it really sheds light on not just who Batman is, but like who Bruce Wayne is willing to become in pursuit of being Batman. And there are elements in that story where you have the Talia al Ghul storyline and the Catwoman stuff, and there's this intimation throughout Arkham City that it's really about Bruce Wayne and struggling with not just what it's like to be Batman, but like with what it's like to be anyone trying to do the right thing. And like, you know, there's a depth to it that I think is really well examined by that game. And you see that through, you know, the way the villains really push Bruce Wayne as a character.
Today is not a good day to push me, Victor.
Stop! There's a security override chip I built into the suit to stop anyone using my weapons against me.
How did that work out for you?
Why don't you go get the security override and figure out a way to stop him yourself?
It's been a pleasure, Victor. Keep thinking about that cure. I'll get you your suit back.
And the latest Spider game it asks a much less complicated question. Like, much less complicated. It basically just asks, can you punch the bad guys enough before you die? Did you punch him? Moral conundrum solved. And yeah, I get it. Like, it's not supposed to be this super complex, emotionally draining Spider-Man adventure. He's Spider-Man. He's supposed to be like this fun character that you can relate to. And like, even, you know, there's some stuff with Dr. Octavius that I find really engaging and interesting, but there's something about the way that the game doesn't ask Peter to change or challenge his beliefs that is kind of odd. Peter is never wrong. It's very G-rated edgy. And even the really interesting characters like Dr. Octavius and the way that they deal with his kind of personality changes and the way he interacts with Peter, they just sideline Doc Ock to phone calls for most of the game. It's so bizarre. Similar to Batlag's Rogues Gallery, you know, Spider Parker has tons of interesting enemies. And they all have something wrong with them. But I think the difference is the Arkham games render these bad guys with like a lot of depth. And one of the things that the Batman animated cartoon brought to the table for that as a franchise was the ability to empathize with the villains. And, you know, something to be said for this idea that you can actually explore what it means to be like the criminal mind. And that's why Batman is such an interesting character. And especially in those games when you play him, you feel like he has to change and grow and learn. And when he is deliberately cruel like he is to Mr. Freeze in Arkham City, you kind of feel like the bite and the regret that he does as well from doing that. But he feels like he has to do it to save the city. There's a challenge to his moral code that occurs. Spider-Man has no such challenges. Not in this game, at least. So yeah, the Arkham games render these baddies as like these kind of tragic victims of a system. That's something else too. Like, the Arkham games really comment on the criminal justice system and the idea of vigilantes and what it means to have a world where that kind of stuff happens. And the people that are villains are ultimately villains because of the system. They're pushed to their villainy because of systems larger than themselves. It's never like an individual fault. Mr. Freeze isn't evil because he's a bad dude. He's evil because the system failed him and his wife, and he kind of lost it and kept stepping down the rabbit hole of becoming a bad dude, right?
We both exist because of them!
Give up! You've lost!
Whereas Spider-Man seems to, like, I don't know, all of his villains are, like, individuals with, like, like, I don't know, like, individuals with medical conditions is how the game kind of, except for the Shocker, who just wants to become energy. And, like, I don't know what becoming energy means. What is that as a villain motivation? You know what I mean? I know he's like a minor villain, but it strikes me as odd. So, like, even in the case in Batman, in the Arkham games with this protagonist of Bruce Wayne, his villain that has the most individualistic faults rather than the system is Joker. And Joker is played with this kind of sinister overture of someone had to be the bad guy to Batman. You know, Joker is kind of caused by Batman if you played the Arkham Origins game. So even the system that generated Batman is responsible for creating the Joker because it created Batman in the first place. Whereas with fucking Peter Parker, like, the villains are all just dudes with sicknesses. Like, it's an individual thing. Like, the system didn't make Doc Ock crazy. He just got diagnosed with a particular problem. And, like, it didn't make the Falcon crazy. It's just him repeatedly using a wingsuit made his spine bad. That's not... If you're trying in your game about supervillains and superheroes, if you're trying to say that the supervillains are caused by their individual problems, doesn't that just mean that you think that anyone who's bad, like, it's just like that because something happened to them? Like, someone was mean to them in high school? Isn't that, like, the most... Whatever, I don't know. Doc Ock, he's pretty human. He's kind of interesting. I like him. He's a good character. But the real reason his story is so tragic and he falls into darkness is just, like, he gets sick. Doesn't say anything about Spidey or the system or science or, like, what it means to be a hero. Like, it seemingly has nothing to do with anything going on with the plot. He's just really smart, and he does bad shit because he gets sick. It's kind of to the idea of Spider-Man, but without any of the complexity that makes him interesting as a character. And yeah, there's a friction between, like, you know, his Spider-Man life and, there's a friction between his Spider-Man life and his Peter Parker life, but it's kind of only explored briefly at the start of the game where he loses his apartment, and then it's kind of completely ignored for the rest of it in favor of the Mary Jane relationship, which is probably a good thing. She's an interesting character that's written really well, but, like, the point of Spider-Man is that he recognizes, much like Batman, that these villains aren't villains because they're bad guys, right? He bullies them and he belittles them because he realizes that they're victims of a system, and if they just woke up and listened to him, then, like, they didn't have to be bad guys. You don't have to be a bad guy, you know? You can be a bad guy. Doesn't make you a bad guy. The gameplay itself, I kind of adore. It's really fun. Whipping dudes into walls literally never gets old. Even the supporting characters seem to be weirdly aware of how uncertain the game is about what its message is. Miles Morales, the future Spider-Son, if you've ever read the comics, ends up being mentored by MJ's ex-boyfriend because his dad gets bombed by terrorists. Shit. Aunt May is rendered as a nice person with a penchant for self-destruction, which, yeah, I guess at least she gets some depth. MJ is struggling under the weight of Peter's heroics and never quite comes to terms with her place as Superman's girlfriend. Spider-Man's you know what I mean. He's this kind of paragon of hope that everyone in the story kind of gets behind. Like, he doesn't seem to do anything wrong except be late to stuff sometimes. And I know that, like, one of Peter Parker's classic, and this is just the Sam Raimi stuff, but, like, one of his big tropes in those films is that he's late to stuff because he's being Spider-Man. But it doesn't really work in this game because there's never a problem. People forgive Peter immediately. Like, it's never an actual issue. It's just like it's always like a throwaway, like, he was late, so I'm mad. Like, it doesn't amount to anything. So why include it at all? Did you just need to give him a flaw? And I'm completely aware of the fact that these two games were trying to achieve completely different things. You know, the Arkham, especially Arkham City and the Arkham franchise in general, were trying to take a continuity in the DC comics and explore it in like a more fleshed out kind of way where you felt like you were impacting the shape that Bruce Wayne took as a person in his later years as Batman, and, like, seeing how that kind of looks long term. And Spider-Man does something similar where you pick up in the middle of his career, but it kind of lacks the emotional conflict that the Arkham games are looking for, and instead just gives you a Peter Parker who is just kind of perfect. And yeah, like, I get it. Like, the whole point of having Peter Parker in this game and kind of in this time and place in the world is that, like, shit is really dark right now, and it feels like the world is ending, and we kind of could all use with a hero who isn't, like, morally complex or like a Randian kind of brand of hero. Who's just like a dude doing the right thing and is like a good person. If there were more Peter Parkers in the world would be a good place. But ultimately, the game doesn't have anything to say about that. It has no comment on how that would affect the world, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. It just kind of reduces heroes and villains to these stereotypes and these kind of these affectations of what it means to be like a safe kind of hero or villain. And like, that's fine. I don't mind that in a video game, but I think that if you were looking for something, if people saying like this is the best Spider-Man game ever, probably mechanically yes, but I just don't know that this is a standard that we should be looking to for the kind of story. Like, this is a game the kids are going to play and they're going to love it because it's simple and it's nice and it's comfortable. The bad guys are baddies because they're sick and it's individual and they have individual problems. And the good guys are good because they always do good things. The game's fun as shit, don't get me wrong. I've loved every second of playing it, but something about that kind of rubs me the wrong way. Bad people do good stuff, Good people do bad things. Peter Parker needs some flaws, dog. He can't just be late to shit and that be his only running flaw. If you're a perfect human and you're late to everything, no one ever is going to have a problem with you being late. Ever. And this game does that. That's not a good thing, though, I don't think. That could just be because I'm so flawed. I actually don't know. Don't know what it's like to be a good person. I think that we're in a place in the world where we need better heroes, but I think also, like, with the kind of people that are in power at the moment, I don't think that we should be reducing them to just being evil because something is wrong with them. I think that villainy is bred by systems, and this is the kind of Oscar bait shit that you see, in the late 2000s when people were making films about racism for the sake of it. And I just think that we should be maybe treating this stuff with a bit more of a delicate lens because life is more complicated than bad guys doing bad shit and good guys doing good shit. The game's fine. I like the game a lot. Don't construe this as me disliking the game. I think the game's great. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video. That's it. You can subscribe if you want. I have a podcast to do once a week with my friend Ben. It's about media, and we talk about stuff like this, but with more depth and more research. You can click on that somewhere here, or you can subscribe to this channel. To try and find out what other stuff we're doing as we try and evolve into something new and fresh and exciting. And also, we've just started a book club, so you can also watch that somewhere over here.